Consciousness, at its very basic, is an awareness of our internal and external existence. This concept has intrigued various scholars such as philosophers, theologians, linguists, and scientists for centuries, leading to various interpretations and debates. There are differing evaluations about what exactly constitutes consciousness. It is sometimes viewed as a human mind, an aspect of mind, or even one's inner life, encompassing introspection, imagination, and volitions. It often encapsulates all types of cognition, experiences, feelings, or perception, be it awareness, self-awareness, or awareness of awareness in a fluid or static state. Various researches, ideas, and surmisings on this topic raises questions about whether we're asking the right questions about consciousness. Descriptions, definitions, and explanations range from just simple wakefulness to a profound sense of selfhood or soul, which can be discovered by introspection. It has been associated with being a figurative stream of cognitive contents or a mental state, event, or process of our brain. Potential disagreements about interpretations of consciousness can be traced back to interpretations of Aristotle's works by philosophers such as Hamlin, Rorty, Wilkes, Kahn, Hardy, and Modrack. Current understanding equates Aristotle's perceptual awareness with modern concept of consciousness, albeit he has no specific term for it. Origin of the modern concept of consciousness is often credited to Locke's essay published in 1690, where he defines consciousness as perceiving what is happening in one's own mind. This had a significant impact on the 18th century understanding of consciousness and earned a mention in the celebrated dictionary by Samuel Johnson. French equivalent of consciousness, conscience, is also defined as an internal feeling or opinion about one's own actions in the 1753 volume of Encyclopédie by Diderot and D'Alembert. However, the English usage of conscious and consciousness predates this and was first used in 1500s. The term originally comes from the Latin term conscious, meaning knowing with or having joint or common knowledge with another. Over the years, the meaning of the term evolved closely to mean we know that we know, much similar to the current meaning of the English term conscious. As this transition in meaning was depicted in Locke's definition in his 1690 work. Consciousness, at its very basic, is an awareness of our internal and external existence. This concept has intrigued various scholars such as philosophers, theologians, linguists, and scientists for centuries, leading to various interpretations and debates. There are differing evaluations about what exactly constitutes consciousness. It is sometimes viewed as the human mind, an aspect of mind, or even one's inner life, encompassing introspection, imagination, and volitions. It often encapsulates all types of cognition, experiences, feelings, or perception, be it awareness, self-awareness, or awareness in a fluid or static state. Various researches, ideas, and surmisings on this topic raises questions about whether we're asking the right questions about consciousness. Descriptions, definitions, and explanations range from just simple wakefulness to a profound sense of selfhood or soul, which can be discovered by introspection. It has been associated with being a figurative stream of cognitive contents or a mental state, event, or process of our brain. Potential disagreements about interpretations of consciousness can be traced back to interpretations of Aristotle's works by philosophers such as Hamlin, Rorty, Wilkes, Kahn, Hardy, and Modrack. Current understanding equates Aristotle's perceptual awareness with modern concept of consciousness, albeit he has no specific term for it. Origin of the modern concept of consciousness is often credited to Locke's essay published in 1690, where he defines consciousness as perceiving what is happening in one's own mind. This had a significant impact on the 18th century understanding of consciousness and earned a mention in the celebrated dictionary by Samuel Johnson. French equivalent of consciousness, conscience, is also defined as an internal feeling or opinion about one's own actions in the 1753 volume of Encyclopédie by Diderot and D'Alembert. However, the English usage of conscious and consciousness predates this and was first used in 1500s. The term originally comes from Latin term conscious, meaning knowing with or having joint or common knowledge with another. Over the years, the meaning of the term evolved closely to mean we know that we know, much similar to the current meaning of the English term conscious. As this transition in meaning was depicted in Locke's definition in his 1690 work. The concept of consciousness has been a topic of discussion for centuries, with its definition varying from one source to another. and even sparking disagreements regarding aspects like self-awareness and perception of material reality, or the difference between overt and covert mental activity. In Webster's Third New International Dictionary, consciousness is defined as an inward cognition of a psychological or spiritual truth, an inherent understanding of one's inner self, or an engaged alertness. It describes a state full of sensations, emotions, thought processes, and willingness. It also refers to a mental capacity that transcends the physical realm. It sums up a person's or group's range of sensations, perceptions, thoughts, attitudes, and feelings at a specific time. Furthermore, it refers to the awakening of the mind following sleep, trance, or fever, where all cognitive abilities are regained. Similarly, Cambridge Dictionary interprets consciousness as the ability to understand and realize, while Oxford Living Dictionary presents it as the state of being aware of and responding to one's environment, a person's recognition or cognizance of something, and the acknowledgement of the mind's of something and the acknowledgement of the mind's existence within itself and the world. Philosophers, in addressing these nuanced distinctions, employ specialized terminologies. The Routledge Encyclopedia of Philosophy in 1998 highlighted 4 foundational ideas linked to the term consciousness: general knowledge, intentionality, introspection, and phenomenal experience. Mental introspective consciousness implies scrutinizing or being prepared to introspect, while phenomenal consciousness simply means there is a subjective experience attached to it. Clear instances include perceptual experiences, bodily sensations, imaginative experiences, and thought streams. There is uncertainty, however, regarding the independence or dissociability of introspection and phenomenality. Nevertheless, crafting a concise, non-circular definition of consciousness remains a challenge, leading to skepticism as expressed in the Macmillan Dictionary of Psychology by Stuart Sutherland. The exploration into the nature of consciousness holds significant historical and scientific importance. The concept of consciousness can change how researchers approach their studies, such as those themes outlined by Sutherland, suggesting that even protozoans could be considered conscious if you use environmental awareness as the criteria. Conversely, if the criteria are self-awareness, humanity's closest animal relatives, the great apes, and even human infants may fall short. Most people, despite the philosophical complexities, comprehend consciousness on an instinctual level. Some philosophers argue this means it's a cohesive concept. However, contrasting theories propose that the scale of disagreement regarding its definition demonstrates the term may be subjective, encapsulating varying meanings, or perhaps should be removed entirely from cognitive theories, an ideology referred to as consciousness semanicism.
The rare Earth hypothesis proposes that the formation of complex life on Earth was not a common occurrence, but rather the result of an improbable series of astrophysical and geological phenomena. This hypothesis suggests that the emergence of intelligent extraterrestrial life is unlikely due to the concept is found in the book Rare Earth, Why Complex Life is Uncommon in the Universe by Peter Ward and Donald. The hypothesis lists numerous necessary conditions for the emergence of biological complexity or human intelligence, including a habitable zone, the right planetary system, the presence of a magnetosphere and plate tectonics. Rare Earth explores the concept that there are only specific areas within the universe that can support complex life, making up what is known as the galactic habitable zone. This zone is characterized by factors such as distance from the galactic center. These factors ultimately limit the range of distances from the galactic center where complex life can exist. Additionally, a star with a circular orbit around the galactic center must maintain its location for a sufficient amount of time to allow for the evolution of complex life on its planets. The galactic habitable zone is estimated to be a ring 7 to 9 kiloparsecs in radius. Several studies propose that past mass extinctions align with movements across spiral arms, proper orbital distance from a suitable star, and the concept of a habitable zone. The existence of liquid water is essential for complex life, and the maintenance of this requires a specific orbital distance from the center. Stability is another crucial factor for advanced life, and the Sun's low luminosity variation is an example of this stability. The presence of binary systems can disrupt a planet's orbit and affect its habitability. Rocky planets within the habitable zone can benefit from the greenhouse effect, and only stars of a specific type are hospitable to evolved metazoan life. Small red dwarf stars and oversized stars are less likely to support life due to the tidal locking effect and increased risk of solar flares. The central idea of the rare earth hypothesis is that the structure of a planetary system, including the presence and placement of gas giants, is crucial to the potential for complex life to develop. From the greenhouse effect, and only stars of a specific evolved metazoan life small. The proponents of this hypothesis contend that a system with small, rocky inner planets and outer gas giants with strong gravitational. Moreover, gas giants cannot be too close to a potentially life-bearing planet, as their proximity can disrupt the gravitational balance necessary for a stable planetary orbit. Chaotic orbital dynamics. The size of a planet also plays a vital role in its potential to support complex life.
William Lycan, for instance, identifies at least 8 unique types of consciousness in his book Consciousness and Experience, and contends that there are even more yet obscure types furthermore. There is ongoing debate about whether or not a consciousness and P-consciousness always co-occur, or if they can manifest separately. While a consciousness without P-consciousness has been hypothetically proposed, its occurrence remains doubtful.
On the other hand, the Moon's unusual characteristics make it essential for the existence of complex life forms on Earth. The large size of the Moon stabilizes the planet's axial tilt. Its gravity also initiates and maintains plate tectonics, preventing the entire planet from being covered by continental crust and leaving room for oceanic crust. Further, the Moon's dynamo effect shield. The theme of the story revolves around the rarity of complex life forms on Earth-like planets. Despite the emergence of simple cells soon after Earth's formation, it took almost half the planet's life for them to evolve. The evolution of eukaryotic life was triggered by the incorporation of one simple cell into another, resulting in the evolution and persistence of sexual reproduction, the purpose of which is still unclear, also poses a mystery in biology. While life on Earth has existed for a relatively short time, the absence of extreme climatic variations, supervolcanoes, and large meteorite impacts has. The rare Earth hypothesis centers around the number of planets. The factors include the fraction of stars in the galactic habitable zone, the fraction of planets in the Milky Way with rocks rather than gases, the prevalence of microbial and complex life, the lifespan of a planet with complex life, the presence of a large moon, and more. The rare Earth equation differs from the Drake equation in that it does not factor the probability of intelligent life evolving. Many biologists argue that the evolution from primitive animals to modern humans was highly unlikely due to various factors such as the development of large brains and vocal apparatus. These factors ultimately enable humans dexterous manipulations and language abilities, which allow them to interact cooperatively and acquire a culture. Various experts across various fields have expressed their belief in the rare Earth hypothesis, which suggests that the emergence of intelligent life on Earth is a result of a series of improbable events and coincidences, and that it does not factor the probability of intelligent life evolving. Many biologists argue that the evolution from primitive animals to modern humans was highly unlikely due to various factors such as the development of large brains and vocal apparatus, language abilities, which allow them to interact cooperatively and acquire a culture, and complex life. The various experts across Earth hypothesis, which suggests. Stuart Ross Taylor, a solar system specialist, strongly advocates for the hypothesis, while Stephen Webb, a physicist, investigates and rejects potential solutions for the Fermi paradox. Tipler, computer pioneer Ray Kurzweil, science writer John Gribben, astrophysicist Guillermo Gonzalez, and geochemistry and volcanology professor Mark J. Daffant, who argues that intelligent life may only exist on Earth due to an overwhelming amount of coincidental factors that have occurred throughout the universe's history. Even physicist Brian Cox, the rare Earth hypothesis, as described by David Darling, is not a hypothesis or prediction, but merely a description of how life arose on Earth. Some exobiologists suggest that stars outside the F7K1 range may give rise to life under the right circumstances, which is a central point. In contrast, others argue that rocky planets orbiting within habitable zones may not be rare, as estimates suggest that about 1/5 of Sun-like stars and orange dwarfs are expected to have an Earth-sized or super-Earth-sized planet close to an Earth-like orbit. These findings challenge the restrictive nature of the rare Earth equation factors. Not a hypothesis or prediction, but merely a description of how life arose on Earth. Some exobiologists, Ward and Brownlee, argue that plate tectonics are a crucial factor for the evolution of complex life on Earth. based on the generation of biogeochemical cycles. They predicted that, while there is no scientific consensus on the evolution of plate tectonics on Earth, recent studies suggest that Ward and Brownlee's claim that oxygen is crucial for animal life has been challenged by the discovery of anaerobic metazoa like Spinalorchis sinzii and the eukaryotic genus Monocercomonoids that lack mitochondrial organelles. Further research on alternative metabolic pathways. Scientists have proposed other membrane alternatives for complex life in worlds without oxygen. While recent studies suggest that Earth's multicellular life existed prior to the Great Oxygenation Event, the importance of Earth's magnetic field to the development of complex life. The theme of the story questions the necessity of the Moon's influence on Earth's obliquity and spin for the existence of complex life. Casting argues that even without the Moon, Earth could still support the necessary climate for complex life, and predicting the spin rate would be difficult. While the giant impact theory suggests that the Moon stabilized Earth's rotation, it has slowly decelerated Earth's solar day. However, larger secondary bodies could potentially increase the solar day.
Since the 1980s, an influx of neuroscientists and psychologists have dedicated themselves to consciousness studies, leading to a wealth of research published in books, academic periodicals, and conferences hosted by the Association for the Scientific Study of Consciousness and the Society for Consciousness Studies.
Some argue that these conditions could exist on moons of gas giants, while others dispute this due to radiation and lack of environmental stresses. The possibilities for alternative biochemistries for alien life and the existence of complex life in subsurface habitats are also. The theme of the story revolves around the significance of ancient circumvental ecosystems that host complex life on Earth. The remarkable example of Riftia pachyptila that thrives self-sufficiently independent of the surface.
The ultimate aim is to comprehend the correlation between conscious awareness of stimuli, indicated by verbal report, and the impact these stimuli have on brain activity and behavior. Numerous paradigms such as response priming show that a subject's behavior is evidently affected by stimuli they report as being unaware of. Experimentally manipulating conditions can subsequently amplify these priming effects, even as prime identification reduces double dissociation. Although considered highly reliable, verbal reporting has its issues. The major criticism is that these reports may contain mistakes. This creates problems understanding how individuals can be incorrect about their experiences and how such mistakes could be identified. Philosopher Daniel Dennett proposes an alternative method coined heterophenomenology, which involves treating verbal reports as possibly untrue tales. However, the wider academic community has not yet accepted his approach. Besides, using verbal report as a criterion of consciousness limits the scope of investigation to humans who are capable of verbal communication. This means such studies cannot include non-human species, pre-linguistic children, or subjects with language, affecting brain damage. In addition, those challenging the Turing test's credibility might argue that it is possible for verbal reports to exist entirely separately from actual consciousness. Even though verbal reporting is popularly considered the gold standard for determining consciousness, it isn't the sole criterion. The medical profession assesses consciousness using a blend of verbal behavior, arousal, brain activity, and purposeful movement. The latter three can replace verbal behavior as consciousness indicators when it's unavailable. Focusing on the theme of consciousness and self-awareness in various species, the classic technique involves marking the individual's forehead and observing their attempts to remove it, indicating self-recognition in a mirror. Humans above 18 months, some great apes, dolphins, orcas, pigeon, European magpies, and elephants have all demonstrated this behavior. Relevant scientific literature involves extensive consciousness studies, highlighting the relationship between an individual's experiences and simultaneous brain activity, known as neural correlates of consciousness. These studies employ various brain imaging techniques like AGN-fMRI to physically measure brain activity and hope to identify patterns predictive of conscious awareness. One long-standing theory suggests consciousness is associated with high-frequency gamma band oscillations in brain activity. This is based on proposals from the 1980s, which speculated that gamma oscillations could provide a solution to the binding problem by linking diverse information across the brain for a unified conscious experience. Studies reveal that activity in primary sensory areas isn't sufficient to produce consciousness. Instead, higher brain areas, particularly the prefrontal cortex known for executive functions, depict more promising results. A top-down neural activity flow from the frontal cortex to sensory areas appears more indicative of conscious awareness than a bottom-up flow, however. Other parts of the brain, like certain parts of the temporal lobe, have been shown to reflect visual perception. The modulation of neural responses may form a correlation between brain activity and phenomenal experiences, with some evidence showing the potential for peripheral visual field awareness arising from bottom-up neural activities in the primary visual cortex. The Perturbational Complexity Index, C, was introduced in 2013 as a metric to gauge the complexity of the brain's response to transcranial magnetic stimulation. The degree of this response was found to be more pronounced in awake individuals, those in REM sleep or in a locked-in state compared to those in a deep sleep or vegetative state. This discovery paved the way for major advancements in assessing degrees of consciousness. Numerous studies have been conducted to understand if not only humans, but different species possess consciousness, which has led to a plethora of diverse theories. For instance, based on the extensive cognitive abilities of birds, researchers commonly speculate these creatures possess a certain level of consciousness. Comparative studies of brain structures between mammals and birds reveal certain homologs which validate major existing theories around mammalian consciousness. From the research conducted by Butler and his colleagues, it became clear that many theories about mammalian brain could be applied to the avian brain as well. They found homologous counterparts that are crucial for consciousness in mammalian brains, also present in avian brains. Therefore, key aspects of theories presented by Crick and Koch, Edelman and Tononi, and Cotterill appear to align with the idea that birds possess consciousness. However, some elements of these theories proved more challenging to apply to avian consciousness, such as the role of layer 5 neurons as suggested by Crick and Koch, and Ackley's dendron theory as equivalent structures in avian brains have yet to be identified. The contention that birds may possess consciousness leads us to consider reptilian brains, considering the structural similarity between avian and reptilian brains. This suggests the origins of consciousness could predate current assumptions held by leading neuroscientists. Joaquin Fuster of UCLA highlighted the significance of the prefrontal cortex, along with the Wernicke and Broca areas, in the evolution of human language capabilities. These areas are also essential for the emergence of higher-order consciousness in humans. Additionally, a 2016 study shed light on lesions in certain regions of the brainstem associated with comatose and vegetative states. Their research suggested that a small area within the rostral dorsolateral pontine tegmentum, along with the left ventral anterior insular cortex and the progenual anterior cingulate cortex, could be working in tandem to sustain consciousness. The Orchestrated Objective Reduction, ORC-OR, model argues that consciousness arises from quantum-level activities within neurons, guided by cellular structures known as microtubules. However, this theory sees criticism as its insights go beyond our current understanding of quantum theory. In 2011, Graziano and Kastner introduced the attention schema hypothesis of awareness. This postulates that certain cortical regions construct awareness and assign it to ourselves and others, and damage to these regions can result in consciousness impairment in this light. Awareness is a representation of attentional states, and being aware of something is explained as directing attention towards it. The entropic brain theory, informed by neuroimaging studies with psychedelic substances, suggests that the brain exists in a chaotic state during rapid eye movement sleep, early psychosis, and under the influence of drug. Normal waking awareness reigns in this chaos, enabling higher cognitive functions like self-awareness and reality testing. In 2017, David Rudroff and colleagues, including Carl Friston, incorporated an active inference paradigm into their consciousness theory. They proposed a model that integrates sensory data with priors via projective transformation. However, they admit their model does not entirely resolve the hard problem of consciousness. There's also ongoing debate about when and how consciousness emerged in biological evolution, and whether it serves any survival purpose. Theories range from human exclusive emergence to the proposition that consciousness evolved in early vertebrates over 500 million years ago. The question of the survival value of consciousness arises in each of these scenarios, underscoring the complexity and depth of this scientific discourse. The core theme of this discourse on cognition focuses on the function of consciousness, which is suggested in multiple theories to act as an integrative mechanism that unites otherwise separate neural processes and information processing, a concept known as the integration consensus Gerald. Edelman's dynamic core hypothesis underlines this theory, highlighting the brain's reentrant connections that contribute to a highly interconnected structure. He additionally underlines the importance of examining the evolutionary shift from primary consciousness, a trait humans share with non-human animals, to higher-order consciousness unique to humans. These theories of consciousness's integrative function offer solutions to the enduring problems of differentiation and unity. They explain how consciousness can differentiate between a vast array of scenes and specifics through integration of sensory data, while also creating a unified, singular experience from these multiple facets. However, these theories fail to specify exactly what type of information can be integrated consciously and which can be integrated rapidly and without awareness. The role of consciousness in this integration is also left undefined, as is the reason that the same results cannot be achieved without consciousness. It is evident that not all information can be consciously disseminated, such as low-level perceptual analysis, unconscious motor responses, neural activities tied to vegetative functions, etc. Yet such information can often be combined with other data without consciousness, as demonstrated in multisensory interactions like the ventriloquism effect. This raises the question, why does consciousness exist at all? For an in-depth exploration of the distinctions between conscious and unconscious integrations, the article by Ezequiel Morcella is recommended. It's worth remembering that even among those who consider consciousness to be well-defined, there is ongoing debate about its existence in animals other than humans. An interesting distinction proposed by Edelman is the idea that while primary consciousness is shared with non-human animals, humans have uniquely evolved higher-order consciousness. This makes investigating the evolution of consciousness a complex task despite these challenges. Some suggest that from the lens of evolutionary biology, consciousness can be seen as an adaptive trait that enhances survival. Some philosophers posit that consciousness offers no evolutionary advantage, asserting that an equivalent organism without consciousness, dubbed a philosophical zombie, could hypothetically present the same survival benefits. As the evolutionary process does not distinguish between conscious and non-conscious organisms performing the same functions, the specific evolutionary advantage of consciousness remains unclear. This has led to the theory proposed by some theorists that consciousness did not evolve as an adaptation, but emerged incidentally due to other developments such as brain size increase or cortical rearrangement. These theorists compare the incidental development of consciousness to the presence of blind spots in the retina, a mere consequence of wiring rather than an adaptation. Noteworthy scholars, including Pinker, Chomsky, Edelman, and Luria, have emphasized the emergence of human language as an instrumental regulatory mechanism in the development of advanced consciousness, impacting learning and memory processes. However, there exist brain states, such as during dreamless sleep or coma, where consciousness seems to be lacking. There also exist various circumstances that result in what are termed altered states of consciousness, which may cause disturbances in perception of time, changes in thinking, loss of control, emotional changes, alternations in body images, and alterations in interpretation of significance. Altered states can arise naturally or as a result of brain damage, and psychotropic substances, sleep and dreaming are the most extensively recognized altered states. While they may seem similar externally, dream sleep and non-dream sleep are distinguished by unique patterns of brain activity, metabolic activity, eye movement, cognition, and experience. Interestingly, dream sleep is associated with intricate and continual experiences, punctuated by occasional bizarre intrusions, whereas non-dream sleep, when interrupted, yields typically vague, fragmented cognition. The thought process in the dream state is frequently irrational. Both states, however, result in rapid memory disruption, with non-dream memory vanishing in seconds and dream memory decaying minutes post, wakening unless deliberately refreshed. Furthermore, research found that partial epileptic seizure patients experience altered consciousness. Their general consciousness is impaired or completely lost, despite some automated behaviors remaining intact. Psychoactive substances ranging from sedatives to stimulants and psychedelics such as LSD or psilocybin significantly affect consciousness. Their effects extend from curtailing awareness to intensifying sensory perceptions. Users often report major perceptual distortions, including hallucinations, and sometimes mystical or spiritual experiences. The exact brain mechanics behind these effects remain relatively unclear compared to those triggered by alcohol. But serotonin, a chemical neurotransmitter, appears to play a crucial role. Research has also delved into the physiological changes in yogis and meditators, showing some brainwave differences between regular relaxation and meditation states. However, the distinctiveness of these states is still a point of contention. Notably, psychologist Charles Tart's comprehensive study of altered consciousness states in the EAA-EI 60s and 70s painted a picture of consciousness made up of several processes from sensing the external world to cognitive processing, which could all be manipulated in various ways, yet the component he listed have not been empirically verified. While undefined, recent research identifies 11 significant factors contributing to drug-induced states of consciousness such as unity, spiritual experience, bliss, insightfulness, and impaired control, among others. From a medical perspective, consciousness is viewed through a scientific lens, largely to address impairments due to disease, brain damage, toxins, or drugs. The level of a person's consciousness, ranging from coma and brain death to full alertness and purposeful responsiveness, is a primary medical focus. It is a significant concern for patients and physicians, particularly neurologists and anesthesiologists, as it directly influences treatment plans. From putting patients to sleep, administering general anesthesia, or inducing medical coma, neuropsychological assessment in the field of medicine helps evaluate a patient's state of consciousness. There are two common approaches for doing this: a basics procedure that requires little training and a comprehensive one that demands significant medical proficiency. The basics technique involves checking if the patient shows responsiveness to physical stimuli and can coherently answer questions. A patient who successfully passes this stage of assessment is said to be alert and oriented ×4 or marked as a core in medical records, signifying full consciousness. On the other hand, the intricate method, known as a neurological examination, is usually performed by experienced neurologists in a hospital environment. This assessment comprises a sequence of accurately delineated tests, starting with basic sensoromotor reflexes and concluding with sophisticated language skills. For summarizing the results, the Glasgow Coma Scale is utilized, yielding a score between 3 and 15. A lower score indicates coma, while a score of 15 symbolizes full consciousness. In 2013, an innovative procedure was introduced which involved stimulating the brain with a magnetic pulse, recording the subsequent electrical activity, and calculating a consciousness score based on the complexity of brain activity. Conditions affecting consciousness are typically classified as disorders of consciousness, encompassing extremities like minimally conscious state, persistent vegetative state, locked-in syndrome, and severe chronic coma. Determining the distinct differences amongst these disorders is a dynamic field of biomedical research. In the end, brain death manifests as a potentially irreversible interruption of consciousness. Other conditions like dementia, delirium, and even grand mal and petit mal seizures may disrupt consciousness, but temporarily, and therefore are not included in this category. People suffering from hemispatial neglect can sometimes become oblivious to their paralyzed body parts, exemplified by a man who mistook his paralyzed leg for a dead one and attempted to throw it out of his bed. Similarly, those with Anton Babinski syndrome, though rare, can lose their vision but continue to claim their ability to see, despite evidence to the contrary. Considering the concept of consciousness, Lichen classification identifies 8 types, some observable in utero while others evolve years after birth. Educational psychologist William Folks's research on children's dreams indicates that prior to cognitive development shifts experienced between ages 5 to 7, children don't possess the lock in consciousness or introspective consciousness that he refers to as self-reflection. In a 2020 study, Catherine Nelson and Robin Favush agreed with Folkes, addressing this faculty as autobiographical consciousness, and argued that it's language that allows humans to develop this unique form of consciousness. They established that the development of a theory of mind is essential for autobiographical consciousness, defining it as the ability to understand the differences in one's own thoughts, emotions, desires, and beliefs compared to others. They highlighted the understanding of false beliefs, a significant aspect of the theory of mind, which usually occurs at around 5 to 6 years of age. The issue of animal consciousness comes with its own set of challenges. The inability of animals to communicate in human language makes it harder to understand their experiences. Objectively arguing about it is difficult too, as denying an animal's consciousness often means it doesn't feel, has no value, and it's not morally wrong to harm it. Descartes, for example, believed that only humans possess a non-physical mind, leading some to blame him for animal mistreatment. While most people instinctively feel certain animals like cats and dogs are conscious, others such as insects are not. This intuition often stems from personal interactions and observations with pets and other animals. Scholars from various backgrounds of psychology and ethology have advocated for the existence of consciousness in animals. They've pointed out behaviors that suggest animals might have beliefs about objects they can't directly perceive. Donald Griffin's 2001 book, Animal Minds, extensively reviews this evidence, celebrating the notion of consciousness. Distinguished neuroscientists from different disciplines congregated at the University of Cambridge on July 7, 2012. The occasion was the Francis Crick Memorial Conference, which focused on human consciousness and pre-linguistic consciousness in animals post-conference. These scientists officially endorsed the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness in front of Stephen Hawking. The declaration underlines the significant conclusions of their research. While we, scholars, understand and accept the presence of consciousness in animals, this understanding hasn't spread to the rest of the world. They gathered evidence that indicates non-human animals, including all mammals, birds, and other creatures, possessing brain structures requisite for consciousness and displaying intentional behaviors. The concept of imbuing inanimate objects with consciousness holds roots in ancient mythology. For instance, the Greek myth of Pygmalion, who carved a statue that magically gained life, and medieval Jewish tales of the golem, a creature of clay endowed with life through magic. However, the first serious conjecture regarding building an actual conscious machine was by Ada Lovelace in 1842. She penned some observations about Charles Babbage's analytical engine, a precursor to modern computers. Lovelace was skeptical that such a machine could emulate human thinking. She urged caution against inflating the true capabilities of the analytical engine, confirming that it could only fulfill commands. It could not originate or anticipate anything. Renowned computer scientist Alan Turing contributed significantly to this debate in his 1950 essay, Computing Machinery and Intelligence. Turing suggested the idea of the Turing test, substituting many confusing questions about machine thinking with this practical test. If a computer could fool human interrogators by imitating human responses, it passes the test. This proposal sparked intense philosophical debate, and the Turing test is now a frequently referenced benchmark in discussions about machine consciousness and artificial intelligence. In the well-known debate denoted as the Chinese room argument, philosopher John Searle refutes the notion proposed by supporters of strong artificial intelligence, i.e., that a computer program can possess consciousness. Rather, he aligns more with the notion of weak AI, which proposes that computer programs can mimic conscious states. Searle's perspective is that consciousness, being inherently subjective and intentional, is a unique trait of human brains due to their biological functionality. This stands in contrast to the computational nature of computers. Searle further elaborates his point via a hypothetical scenario involving a Turing machine that comprehends Chinese. He imagines himself a monolingual English speaker in a room equipped with a book of Chinese symbols and boxes full of matching Chinese symbols here. Searle would act as the computer, following instructions from the book, acting as the software to process Chinese symbols from input to output here. Claims that despite successfully converting input to output, he would still have no understanding of the Chinese language. In contrast, if the same experiment was conducted in English, Searle, being proficient in the language, could answer questions without any algorithms, proving his awareness of the conversation. Despite passing the Turing test in both languages, Searle argues his consciousness is only present in the English language scenario. The argument dictates that although computer programs can pass Turing tests by processing a language's syntax, the syntax alone cannot provide the semantic meaning that advocates of strong AI anticipate. Amongst A discourses, Searle's argument is second only to Turing's in terms of the discussions